Welcome, everyone. We are back here for the NFL Draft Bible Tailgate Show, bringing you everything for college football that you need to know on your Saturday morning. This is part 6. I can't believe it's part 6 already. Ryan Roberts here, Director of Scouting at NFL Draft Bible. If you're wondering where Rick Saratella is, if you're wondering where David Turner is, if you're wondering where John Murphy is, they're all out on the road, out and about. John and Rick are out there in California, and David is down in Houston, Texas. Getting some verified numbers for some guys that are on the street right now, some street free agents that are trying to make their dreams come true. So I have with me some good friends here. Mr. Joe DeLeone, who is my co-host over at Locked On Irish, as well as my co-host over at Believe in NFL Draft Prospect Podcast. Joe, inviting you in first, man. Appreciate you coming on. First time on the NFL Draft Bible Show as a guest.
I guess I'm a guest. I was told 5 minutes before I'm also technically a host. It's not too different from the other day when I was asked to host the State of Football show. Was not really sure what to expect, but I'm glad to be back here again. It's not, hopefully I can come back more often than just every so often.
Yeah, man, we got to make this a regular thing. And my third wheel today, I got Mr. Zack Thomas, excited to have the owner of the Dynasty Draft Room, all-around great guy and one of the best evaluators I know. Zach, welcome to the show, man. Saturday morning. How you feeling, brother?
Hey, man, I'm feeling good. I'd probably be feeling a little bit better if my Gophers didn't lay a stinker last night against the Hawkeyes.
Oh, my God.
But I'm happy to be on the pod, man. I'm excited to talk some prospects. I appreciate the kind words. And yeah, man, I'm just ready to go. I'm excited. It's Saturday. This is the big day, man.
This is it, man. The sacred day of the week. And Zach, maybe we should start there, man. We're going to preview a bunch of games for today. But, man, Minnesota was rough last night, man. Tanner Morgan was a guy that I liked a little bit in the summer going into the year. What is going on right now with the Golden Gophers?
Man, honestly, it's tough to really pinpoint because there is a lot of NFL talent on that team. Rashad Bateman's still showing out. I mean, we all know that he's a legit NFL prospect. But, man, he missed a couple passes last night that I'm like, dude, if you're an NFL player, you got to catch those. But he still looks good. Tanner Morgan, I mean, he's missing passes high. He's looking frantic in the pocket. He doesn't seem to have that pocket awareness that he had last year. I mean, I shouldn't say that it's just gone, but I feel like defenses are really starting to fool him a little bit more than they did last year. He's still a good player. I think he's going to bring it around, but he's definitely not that fringe first round, early day 2 prospect that everyone's been talking about early in the offseason. On defense, they're struggling to get stops. I mean, they got Boye Mafe, who's a really good player, and he's played really well this year. He's had a few sacks already, but he struggled to get to the backfield last night. And Iowa was just able to pick him apart. I mean, Emir Smith-Marset looked really good. Tyler Goodson, oh my gosh, man, he's a 22 kid, but he looks really, really good. That left side of the offensive line was opening up running lanes left and right. He had holes to run through at the second level. He able to get to the third level and just kind of destroy our secondary. We're missing St. Juice last night too, which is a big hit for our secondary. But man, I don't know. It's been tough. It's been tough being a Gophers fan. But hey, I got the Longhorns to look forward to as well. But they're still not doing hot
either. So you gotta.
I should stop claiming fandom to teams because they just suck.
It makes it a lot easier, man. I wish I would have done that with Notre Dame for a little bit there because I would have had some less heartbreak for a little bit for sure. Tyler Goodson, though, I like that little mention there, man. The running back from Iowa, that kid looks good. He's got a little something to him, I think.
Yeah, kid's looking really good.
And we are, yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna preview some games for today. Roll through. It's a weird week, right? Because there is so many cancellations, so many postponed games. We have to make sense of what is a very odd week in college football. And also, none of these games have top 25 matchups with both teams sitting in the top 25. So it's not the best week for college football, but we're still going to make sense because as the old scouting terminology goes, right, if you're a good player, we will find you. So we're going to find players in every one of these games. And we're also going to preview, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the Senior Bowl players that have accepted invites so far at the end. If we have some time, again, we thank you all for joining us. Joe, do you want to preview the first game to start here?
Yeah, so we got one other Friday game that happened that we should definitely hit on super quick because we have a top 10 team playing. We've got a really talented quarterback that seems to be playing on either ends of the spectrum, either looking fantastic and then also sometimes being very frustrating. This Cincinnati versus East Carolina game. They smacked East Carolina 55-17. I got a kick out of seeing that they ran a fake punt all up, over 30 points. That's always really great to rub that in when you have the chance to. But, I saw a lot of really good throws from Desmond Ridder. Zach, why don't we go to you first? Did you see some of that stuff about some of those throws that he made? Like, what are some of your thoughts on seeing what Ridder can do?
I mean, personally, I was excited about him coming into the year. I mean, Cincinnati, I don't think we were I don't think anyone thought they were going to be this, top 10, top 20 type of team. But but I kind of like Desmond Ridder coming into the year. I think he's got, good throwing motion. I think it's snappy, and I think he's got good ball placement too. So there's a lot to like with him. There's a lot of potential there. Seeing how he progressed from last year to this year, and how he's going to progress throughout the rest of the year, I think is going to be key to really break down as we get closer to the NFL draft. But I do think this kid's is going to be a legit NFL prospect when April rolls around.
Yeah, I think a lot of people agree that he's definitely a legit prospect. It's just what makes things so confusing is you'll see a game like the East Carolina one, and then you'll see these other games where he throws for under 200 yards and maybe he has some turnovers. It's just so hard to really gauge who he is because he has that Jekyll and Hyde type concept to him. So Ryan, do you kind of agree with me on that?
Yeah, no, he's I put him into a similar bucket as Kellen Mond from Texas A&M. Like those guys, I think stylistically, physically look pretty similar. But I think that Desmond Ridder might have even more natural arm talent than even a Kellen Mond does. So that's what gets you really excited. He's a guy that I think it's not just going to be about the film evaluation with the guy. Like obviously for quarterbacks, it isn't anyway, but he's going to be a guy that teams I think are really going to want to just sit down with, dive into what he's seeing what can be fixed and what type of person this guy is. And I think that he definitely has the upside to being at least that developmental guy on day 3. I think that he has that upside. But in this class where, again, we're trying to figure out 4 through 10, it seems, or at least 5 through 10 at this point of the quarterback order, Desmond Ridder might be the talented quarterback that is able to move his way up the boards and somewhere on day 2 potentially. And it's a lot of fun to see. And I think he's going to be in that conversation with Kellen Mond because I think both those guys stylistically, again, are pretty similar.
So we've got 10 games that we want to talk about here. Rapid fire, flowing through these pretty quickly. First Big 12 game. This one is a little bit disappointing because this game could possibly have been a top 25 matchup, two talented programs, but Michigan, for some reason, has looked awful this year. Can't beat bad opponents in the Big 12, can't beat good opponents. Now they're expected to face off against number 13, Wisconsin. The good thing with this game is on both sides, you have some talented prospects, especially on Michigan's defense, some of their offensive weapons, also along their offensive line. Zach, who are some of the players that you're paying attention to for this game?
Yeah, for Michigan, I'll start. I want to see Jalen Mayfield play. I know he's a redshirt sophomore, and likely, I shouldn't say likely, he might come up, but he's played. I think he's played pretty well. But like you said, there's just so much question with Michigan. Like, why are they struggling so bad? There's talent on this roster. You look at their defense. I love Kwity Paye. Kid's athletic and can rush the passer very well. Aiden Hutchinson is a guy that I'm a lot higher on than most, I think. And Cameron McGrone, he's played fine, but I still think he's got a lot of development still left he's still got to develop a little bit. But yeah, there's definitely talent on Michigan, but Wisconsin, I mean, Eric Burrell is a safety that I think has played fine. He was talked about more as a UDFA coming into the year. I thought he could have snuck into that late day 3 category. But he's athletic. I think he's got some versatility to him. But yeah, there's definitely some NFL talent in this game, but I just think there's a lot of question marks still.
Yeah, the question marks are definitely impacting things. It doesn't help that their coaching situation is a bit of a mess right now. People talking about how Harbaugh could possibly be fired. Ryan, despite some of those issues that they're dealing with, not competing very well, only have 1 win right now. Are you on the same page with a lot of those prospects that you want to see today playing against the top 15 opponent?
Yeah, I mean, so Michigan's defensive line is where my eyes are going to go to first. Kwity Paye, who's probably been the biggest riser so far. He was a guy that we knew had all the tools. It was just the question of can he put it together on a snap-to-snap basis. So far, he has been a nightmare, and he's got that athletic profile that if he tests nearly to the degree that Bruce Feldman said that he's going to test in his Feldman's freak list, then we're talking top 15, potentially. Like that, I think that's kind of the ceiling for him. He's got all that talent. That Aiden Hutchinson, unfortunately, is now out with an injury, so we're not going to see Aiden Hutchinson on the other side of him. So the eyes are going to be completely on Kwity Paye. Cameron McGrone, and I'm on a similar spot with Zach. A lot of people love the kid. He's a very athletic off-ball linebacker. I'm just not seeing it from a diagnostic perspective. I think he's a tick slow sometimes. I think he sees red and he just gets downhill, and that's all he sees sometimes. He's a redshirt sophomore. I don't think that he's going to come out. I really don't. There was some talk of, even before the season, where he said he was going to be back for 2021. I don't know if that's a legitimate thing or not, but I think that he's a guy that we're going to see more 2022. And then offensively, the only person I'm watching is Jalen Mayfield, because that offense for Michigan is an absolute mess. I am not watching anybody else after losing Tariq Black, Nico Collins in the offseason. Donovan Peoples-Jones, obviously now in the NFL with the Cleveland Browns. The wide receiver group, I know Ronnie Bell has some fanfare in draft circles, but it's just not too much fun. Probably the best player to watch, if we're not watching Jalen Mayfield, is probably Zach Charbonnet, the running back, who's only a true sophomore. He's going to be a future NFLer. Michigan is not fun to watch right now. And for Wisconsin, they have a typical offensive line. I don't think there's anybody that's a standout, surefire first-round pick, but they got Cole Van Lannon and Logan Bruss and Josh Seltzner. They got some guys on that offensive line for sure. And I think the guy, if we're looking for our future goggles looking forward here, Graham Mertz has to be the guy, right? After his incredible start in the first game, that quarterback looks like he could burst on the scene for the 2022 crew, which everyone's already buzzing about. So Graham Mertz, Kwity Paye, Jalen Mayfield. Those are the guys that I'll be watching very closely today.
Shout out to Kwity Paye, who's from the state of
Rhode Island.
Yeah,
yep.
Surprisingly, we couldn't get him to commit to URI. That's a big shocker.
Surprising. Very surprising.
Second Big 10 game, rather. The most surprising team, I think, this season. People talked them up at the beginning of the year. A lot of people said that this team could turn into something, but we've seen this one before. A lesser-known program, people talking them up, and they don't really fulfill those expectations. But Indiana, number 10 Indiana, has 100% stepped up to the plate. They are balling out right now. They look really, really good, facing off against the Michigan State team that beat Michigan. Now, both of these teams aren't really as top-heavy in terms of prospects. I'm very entertained by the one player on Indiana, Flor Wap, who has just the best name, I think, in college football. Zach, are there any prospects that you're looking for in this game that have caught your eye that maybe people just don't know about?
Yeah, I mean, Wap's a good one. I like Wap Filler. He's a solid player. Honestly, man, Michael Penix, the redshirt sophomore quarterback, has looked really good. I mean, lefty, so he's weird to watch, but I'm a lefty, so I'm used to that too. But he's looked really good. The one guy though, and I loved him in the preseason process, was Caleb Jones, their left tackle, 6'8", 360 plus, and he's just a monster. I mean, I don't think he's super athletic or nothing as a left tackle, but I mean, he's one of those guys that he's got power and strength that could just drive guys out of the way, and I think he's going to be a legit day two type of prospect. He could go early day two, could go later day two, but I do think he's going to start getting into that talk of one of those higher round prospects.
Ryan, how about you? Who do you really see as some notable players in this game, and maybe a big reason why Indiana's doing so well?
Well, unfortunately, nobody for Michigan State, so we're going to talk almost exclusively about Indiana here. I'm really, like Zach said, I'm really interested to see Michael Penix Jr., the quarterback. I haven't gotten a real close eye on him yet, so he's a guy that I definitely want to take a look at. I know he has some size, athleticism. I heard he has a pretty strong arm, too, from everything I'm hearing of the lefty. So definitely want to take a look at him. Man, I'll tell you, though, one thing that me and Zach are going to have a little bit of discourse on, man, is I've watched Jones now, maybe 3 or 4 games. I just don't see it, man. I just really do not see it. But, he's I know he's got that size attributes. I think it was the first game of the year. I forget who they play. Penn State, right? I forget the defensive lineman, but somebody made him look silly. We'll probably talk about it.
Silly. It was either Tony or Away, I forget, but I know I remember seeing that too, and I'm like, oh no.
I guess it's not the worst thing in the world because Sean Tony got that Senior Bowl invite, so it's not like he's a scrub or anything. So we'll have to take a little closer eye at Mr. Jones. Wap Fillier. He's that's a great name, like you said, Joe. He's a slot only type of guy, but we're definitely going to keep an eye on him. And Stevie Scott, the running back, I think is a guy that, has my interest to a degree. He's more of a future guy more than anything. But I think if I had to really just, really circle around one player, I think Michael Penix, the quarterback for Indiana, has to be the guy that I'm going to be watching very closely today.
I don't know if any of you guys have seen Whop Flor's full name, his full first name. I don't know what it is off the top of my head.
It's insane.
Yeah,
insane.
He's got like 4 first names, which is absolutely fantastic in my opinion. Getting on into the Pac-12, USC somehow makes an incredible comeback against Arizona State. I was watching the end of that game as I was waiting for the Notre Dame game, and I really discounted USC. I thought that USC is going to look like crap this year again. They're not going to
don't do it.
Anything.
Keaton Slovis, baby. Keaton Slovis. Don't do it.
Somehow they pulled it out of nowhere to make it back in that game, and then the onside kick to take the lead and eventually win it. They're playing against another Arizona school, Arizona. Top 20 USC. They're led by Keaton Slovis. As you said, Ryan, we all know that you're completely obsessed with him. He's your guy that you're ringing the bell for, as not this year, but next year. There also are some other talented players on this USC team in the current draft class. Elijah Vera Tucker is the one that I think I keep hearing. Zach, is there some other guys that maybe are a little bit lower down on this radar?
I'm sorry. I was trying to look up Watt Fillier's full name, and I missed the question.
You know what? That's more important. So if you find it, let us know. Ryan, why don't you give us a couple of the guys on USC and maybe Arizona? I feel like there's not a lot of Arizona guys.
No, there's not, especially with Colin Schooler and Tony Fields transferring this offseason. Grant Cannell's a sophomore quarterback that might be worth just keeping an eye on a little bit. But I'll tell you what, man, and you don't, if you follow me, you know that I'm a big Keaton Slovis guy. I think that he is one of the best quarterbacks in college football already. I think 2022, that's my early favorite to finish quarterback one, because I just think he's so talented. He obviously has playmakers around him, right? Drake London had a big game. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a super athletic, the best St. Brown brother, talent-wise by a large margin. Then also Tyler Vaughns, who feels like he's been in college football for about 7 years, playing the boundary wide receiver for them as well. Vera Tucker, left tackle. That defense, man, I'm waiting for that defense to really show up, because they have NFLers everywhere. Obviously, Jay Tufele opted out of the season, so he's not playing, but they got Marlon Tuiapopoto, I think is how you pronounce it. I don't know. The defensive tackle, he's a talented player. Drake Jackson's a true sophomore who is going to be a very high draft pick whenever he chooses to declare it, either in 2022 or wait until 2023. Pelea Gallo Tieto. I'm usually so good with pronunciations. That was bad. Linebacker number 1 for USC. He's a talented player. I think he's got do you see that name? Do you see it?
Well, I'm just saying, like, imagine putting yourself on the NFL radar for some guy to just call you linebacker number 1.
Well, Joe, look up his name and you tell me how you pronounce it, okay? I actually know how to pronounce it. It's just not in my head. It's probably on there somewhere. Pelea Gallo Tiote or something like that. It's something like that. Anyway, so he is a similar guy for me to the Michigan linebacker that we talked a little bit about earlier. He's not, now his body's a little different, but this kid sees red and only red. He is getting downhill in a hurry. He's no responsibilities in pass coverage. So it's a little frustrating in an NFL trying to project him to the NFL that really values creating space so much. Like, he's not just going to be a run player. Like, you need to show something on pass downs to be very highly coveted. And then they have a couple safeties. Telone Hufanga is a strong safety that plays a lot in the box, and that was a great pronunciation, Joe. Don't look at me like that, okay? He's the force player. He fits that traditional rover role type. He's really going to chill in short zones. And then I'm a big fan. I know he didn't have the greatest game to start the year, but Isaiah Pola Mayo is the safety, 6'4" free safety. He plays a lot in deep zones, and he is very talented. You don't see guys that size usually playing in deep zones, but he has that type of athleticism. I think USC has a ton of talent. They really, really, really did not do themselves justice last week. They did not look good against Arizona State for the majority of the football game. Luckily, a couple bounces went their way, and Keaton Slovis was able to take advantage. Arizona, you're going to watch Grant Cannell a little bit, but besides for that, man, they're two NFL level linebackers in Schooler and Fields transferred this offseason. So I think it might be a long day for the Wildcats defending this talented USC offense.
So Zach, did you find the full name, or you couldn't find it?
I did.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say I'm really glad that we gave Ryan that whole section there to talk about the USC players, because I would never have pronounced their names. I mean,
it's nothing but Samoans, man. It's so tough.
That is pretty crazy. Yeah,
they're good players though. But yeah, so Whop Phillier's full name is Mr. Elias D'Angelo Fillier, and they call him Whop because of his love for Burger King Whoppers.
I remember seeing that was the reasoning behind it. But yeah, that full name is fantastic. Yeah. Are there any guys that maybe, I know Ryan literally just named, I think, every single player playing in this game.
Sorry.
Is there anybody that you're specifically paying attention to?
Yeah, no, he named him perfectly. Linebacker number 1. I'm watching him. Their strong safety. Like, I'm not going to try to pronounce these names. I should learn how to pronounce their names. I mean, these are legit NFL prospects. I can't be that disrespectful, but they're legit prospects. They're very good players. I'm a little bit higher on the safety, and then I'm on Ross A. Brown. I'm just going to watch him just tear it up this weekend.
All right, so getting into that next game that we have on here, Colorado at Stanford. We do have some cancellations and some schedule shifting for our next game. That one's supposed to be a different matchup, but for this one here, Colorado at Stanford. It seems like this Stanford team is a little bit thinner in terms of draft prospect depth that it's typically at, and then conversely, I mean, Colorado is just not really a typical hotbed for big name prospects. The most recent one that we can really think of is Laviska Shenault. Ryan, is there anybody that maybe I'm not giving any credit to that are important in this game?
Well, I think Colorado does have 2 draftable prospects on defense. I think that Nate Landman, he's a little bit limited at linebacker, but I do think that he is, on the cusp of a draftable type player. I think Mustafa Johnson's a really interesting interior defensive lineman for the Buffaloes. So that's a guy that I think that those are the 2 guys, in my opinion, on offense and defense. Just settle on those 2. Landman, number 53, Mustafa Johnson, number 34, the interior defensive lineman. Colorado is very young offensively, so there's probably not a ton that you want to take a look at for them specifically. I will say Stanford, the one guy that I'm really going to take a look at. Well, Thomas Booker, the interior defensive lineman for them, is very talented as well. But Davis Mills, quarterback, is a guy that I really liked in the summer. He wasn't able to play last week because he was in COVID protocol. I don't know if he's playing today or not, but I think that Davis Mills has the talent to be one of those risers in this quarterback class potentially. I think that he's got a ton of talent, 6'4", athletic, has a really nice arm. He was free balling a lot last year, with a lot of the things with injuries and just trying to work through some bad offensive line play. And he really looked good down the stretch of the season. He's got a couple nice guys, Simi Fioco, Michael Wilson, Connor Weddington at wide receiver. So there's some talent around him. And I think that he could be that riser in the quarterback class. Now, he might be a year away because it's only going to be his first full year as a starter. But I think that he has a lot of traits that the NFL is eventually going to really highly covet.
Zach, how about you? Are there any maybe lesser known prospects that are coming from these mid-level Pac-12 teams in this matchup?
Yeah, first of all, it looks like Davis Mills is going to play. It looks like he's going to be available. Just look that up. But I like Tucker Fisk, their tight end, Stanford's tight end. Ryan kind of mentioned the Colorado players that I'd be watching. No one else that I'm really looking at there. But yeah, Tucker Fisk, the tight end, number 88. I think Davis Mills is going to be looking his way a lot. I like Thomas Booker a lot, so I really like that you brought that up, Ryan, because I think he's a very good player. Other than that, though, I obviously you want to watch Walker Little, Paulson Adebo, but they opted out. Those are 2 guys that I would have been watching really closely. But other than that, no, just Tucker Fisk, Davis Mills, Thomas Booker, and then the Colorado boys that Ryan mentioned.
So the scheduling issue that I was referring to, Arizona State was canceled. They're supposed to play UCLA on Sunday. I don't want to hit on that just because with any of these COVID issues and rescheduling, possibly anything that can happen. It's already weird that they're playing on a Sunday. The next game, though, that is a little bit better of a matchup. We've got Oregon State, number 11 Oregon State at Washington State. And it seems so weird to see Oregon State, not Oregon State, as a top 15 ranked team. They've got Himclair Rashid Jr., I believe. Is that the correct pronunciation there, or did I butcher that? Hamilcar, my apologies. So he's invited to the Senior Bowl. Very talented pass rusher. a lot. I've heard a lot of really good things about him. Ryan, are anybody besides him? Is there anybody in this game that catches your eye? It's not the typical Washington State team that has a ton of fast, speedy offensive weapons that they typically do.
Yeah, and I don't know where you heard those nice things about Hamilcar, because it obviously wasn't for me if you've talked to me about
you don't.
it, so.
I didn't know that you didn't like him.
So Hamilcar's, and I just realized that we're supposed to be picking these games while we're highlighting the prospects. Maybe we'll start doing that from now on. It's fine. It's
you
fine.
Didn't tell me.
We got. I know. That's all my fault, Rick. If you're listening, it's all my fault. Okay, so I will say Hamilcar Rashed. He is very explosive in a straight line. But we're working at a guy that's playing 3-4 outside linebacker in their odd man front. I don't think he's incredibly long. I don't think he's incredibly flexible. So I think that he's going to be an off-ball linebacker. I think he might be a Sam at the next level, which is fine. But some people are really hyping him up to being a first to second round edge in this class. And I don't see it right now. I don't see it. I think that he's going to be a guy that's going to go to the Senior Bowl. And the important part of his game, not obviously winning one-on-ones, doing all the type of stuff, him in space, him pass coverage reps. I think that that's going to be very important for him, because he's going to be a guy that some teams are going to say, you need to play off ball a little bit. You need to show us what you can do in space. I think that's going to be a huge aspect of his game. Besides for that, Isaiah Dunn's a senior cornerback that's probably worth keeping an eye on. I like the running back a little bit, Jamar Jefferson. He's only going to be a junior, but he is a guy that really flashed as a freshman and then kind of had a down sophomore campaign. So I want to take a look at him. Especially Washington State's a weird one. I know their right tackle has some good traits to look at a little bit, but they're a little down. They're a little young. They're starting a true freshman quarterback. In this game, I don't think that Oregon State is worth this high of a ranking right now. But looking at this game right now, I think that Oregon State is clearly the favorites, and I would pick them to win this game. But Hamilcar Rashed, Isaiah Dunn are probably the two guys, and Jamar Jefferson that I'm going to keep a close eye on.
Zach, are you in the same camp as Ryan with Hamilcar? Do you think that he's not as good as some people talk about him as?
Yeah, 100%. I don't like agreeing with Ryan. Here I am agreeing with him again. I'm not a big fan of him.
We see this edge class so much different, don't we, Zach? Just thinking about it.
We do. But we see Rashed the same though. I mean, I had him as a 5th round prospect, and let me clarify something real quick about this edge class. I think it is very solid, but there's no elite edge. You're gonna see someone have Kwity Paye as edge 1, another guy have Gregory Rousseau edge 1. You're gonna have Jason Away edge 1, but you're gonna see everyone have a different edge 1. And if you have Rashed in the 1st round or 2nd round, you're wrong, because he's not that good. But I will echo Ryan's take on him. I want to see him in space a little bit more. I want to see him play a little bit more coverage, see what he can do there. Washington State, you got Max Borghi at running back, but yeah, it's very young. It's very inexperienced. This is going to be a very different type of feeling of watching Washington State. It's not even close to the same as what it was last year, even the year before. But this is a game where I'm taking Oregon State for sure. I think this is a big win for them.
And did Borghi play? Borghi didn't play last week. Is he injured? Is he in the protocol?
I just looked at their active depth chart, and he was on there. So I'm thinking he plays. Nice. But yeah, cool. So I'm hoping he does, because I want to see him play.
So we've got 2 picks for Oregon State right now. I'm also going to go with Oregon State. I mean, they are oddly enough ranked this highly, but Washington State without Mike Leach, they've already been inconsistent. I can't really imagine that this early on in 2020, they're going to be coming for the heads of top-ranked Pac-12 teams. So that's across the board. We are going to go with Oregon State picks. We'll round back and hit on those couple games that we ended up getting so excited about the draft prospects. We forgot to provide game predictions. Now let's get to the SEC, which is currently.
Real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just looking at Max Borghi right now. It looks like he's doubtful to play.
Doubtful.
Oh, did you catch it? I was saying Max Borghi is unlikely to play. Yeah, he's doubtful.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Gotcha. Just clarifying that.
So Borghi is going to be out in that one. That's obviously important for that matchup in the Pac-12. As I was saying, though, the SEC is a little bit messy right now. We had a number of huge games get canceled, some big rivalries, some important matchups. they are, not going to be having the full slate that we typically have. Instead, it's going to be very, very thin for today's matchups. The first one, though, that is going to be played 7 p.m. on ESPN, Florida, Arkansas. This is a 4-1 Florida team. They looked fantastic when they played Georgia. They slapped them around pretty good. Arkansas comes in with Felipe Franks, the former Gators quarterback. The Gators, however, Kyle Trask has looked fantastic after he eventually replaced Felipe Franks. And the varying difference between their two draft stocks is significant. Felipe Franks is more of a mid-level guy. Some people are talking Kyle Trask up to be a first-round prospect. You also have to give credit to – Ryan's already shaking his head. You also have to give credit to Kyle Pitts, who was already in that first-round conversation, who has now set himself up to be maybe tight end 1 after all of these crazy performances that he's provided us with. So I want to address, Ryan, you right now shaking your head at Kyle Trask. Are you not a fan of Kyle Trask? Do you think that he's not as good as some people believe he is?
I think if we're drafting Kyle Trask in the first round, then that's just something that I can't get on board with, man. Like, I like Kyle Trask. I really do. I think there's some nice traits there to being a day 2 prospect. I really do. I don't think that he has a great arm. I don't think that he's a great athlete. I think that you're really banking on some things between the ears, but then, like, this guy was somebody that hasn't played a ton of football. So I don't know. I just feel like when you talk about the game experience, right? Like, oh, let's give him more live reps. Let's give him more live reps. That usually pertains to guys that are super toolsy that maybe just haven't had the experience side of everything. Kyle Trask is not that toolsy quarterback prospect that you want. I think that he is a solid player. I think that he is going to be 5 to 6 quarterback in this class, after those that assumed top 4. I like him. But if we're putting him in the first round, I think that that's where you're going to just lose me a little bit. I'm interested to see, is Kyle Pitts going to play today? I know he left the game last week early. Is he going through a concussion protocol? I haven't heard any updates on that type of thing with that nasty shot that he took in the Georgia game. Hoping to see him back on the field. I think Florida will outlast this team because I think that Florida just offensively is just so good. Trevon Grimes, Kadarius Toney at wide receiver. Kadarius Toney is one of the risers if we're talking just wide receiver position this year. He's been an explosive gadget player for the Florida Gators. I am looking forward to seeing, man, because I'll tell you, I kind of wrote Felipe Franks off going into the season, but he's been playing really nice football with Arkansas. Sam Pittman looks like he's got Arkansas moving in the right direction. I can't wait to hear Joe DeLeone pick the upset here. Arkansas beating Florida in the swamp. I can't wait to hear.
Are you picking for me?
Yes, I'm picking for you. Joe picks Arkansas. I pick Florida. Let's hear what Zach has to say.
What? Zach, what do you have? Apparently, my opinion is not valued, so Ryan's just picking for me.
That's funny. I'm taking Florida here. I think their defense is just going to shut down Felipe Franks. As you were talking though about Kyle Pitts, Ryan, Kyle Pitts has been ruled out today, and he could miss next week as well. So yeah, it's going to be Kyle Trask, Kadarius Toney, Trevon Grimes. These are guys I'm going to be watching. I'm on the same boat as Ryan when it comes to Kyle Trask, though. I'm not a huge fan of his as a first-round prospect. I think there's a lot of development that needs to be made with him. Malik Davis at running back is someone to watch, too. I'm watching this defense so closely, though, man. Jeremiah Moon, Ventrell Miller, who is someone that I personally really like. Brad Stewart at corner. He's not a corner at safety, basically that kind of rover position. Donovan Steiner at strong safety, and then Sean Davis is the free safety with Marco Wilson as the other corner. I like this defense a lot. Ventrell Miller is the guy, like I said, I'm going to be watching very closely. The Arkansas left tackle, Myron Cunningham, is someone that I really like. I know at the Dynasty Draft Room, Jack Borowski, Ryan, who you know, likes Myron Cunningham a ton. So I'm excited to watch him closely. This is a game I'm having both eyes on. I mean, I'm not going to take my eyes off this game. This is going to be a fun one to watch.
So according to Brandon Zimmerman, Kyle Pitts is officially out with a concussion for this game. He is a news editor with ESPN and the SEC Network, so that is definitely a reliable source. So no Kyle Pitts in this one. Zach, I'm sorry, did you give your game pick on who you think is going to win? You said Florida?
Yeah, Florida's going to be shutting down this Arkansas offense.
So according to Ryan, I'm not allowed to pick this one.
Do it, Joe. Do it. Pick the upset, man. Do it. Come on.
See, I'm a logical thinker here. I'm not going to let Ryan make my decision for me. Florida has everything going for them. No Kyle Pitts. Their defense has looked good against some good teams. Their offense is explosive. But
it's a revenge game. Come on, do it.
Arkansas has looked very underrated this season. They made Mississippi State look bad. They almost beat Auburn. They also made Mississippi look bad. They also made Tennessee look bad. I want to go with Arkansas to come out with the upset. No offensive weapons for Kyle Trask. No go-to guy. No Kyle Pitts. Give me Arkansas in this one.
Did Zach just leave? Did he just leave because he was so?
After that pick, I had to leave for a second.
Hey, when it happens, you guys are gonna be hitting me up and be like, shit, Joe was right.
I hope it happens. I'm rooting, man. I'm rooting. Arkansas has been a mess over the last couple of years, man. Sam Pittman looks like he's doing some nice stuff. Felipe Franks looks like a draftable quarterback right now. Like, hats off to Arkansas. I'm rooting for him to go into the swamp. The Felipe Franks revenge game. Let's do it, Joe. Let's do it.
You're not confident enough to pick him. You're not risky enough to pick him. I'm the real
Absolutely not. Absolutely
the real baller here, picking the upset. So second SEC game that we want to hit on: South Carolina at Mississippi Ole Miss. Matt Corral has been another polarizing quarterback prospect. We see him throw for 6 touchdowns, then we'll see him throw for 6 interceptions. You don't really know what guy you're getting. Some people have talked about him pushing into that top 5 quarterback conversation if he declared. Others don't even have him anywhere near that spectrum of quarterback quality. But I think the big thing that we're getting from this game is a guy that Ryan is, and I talked about him being obsessed with Keaton Slovis. The obsession that he has with J.C. Horn is frankly a little disturbing at this point. How much he talks up J.C. Horn, the super talented corner who's pushed himself into this first round conversation. Ryan has him as his corner 1. I want to hear from Zach first, though. I want to set up Ryan, but I want to hear from Zach first. In this game, do you think that that's the big matchup, with Corral basically having to duke it out with J.C. Horn?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to – it's going to be a big game against J.C. Horn, who's arguably the best corner in college football, and I know Ryan agrees with that statement there. The kid has played – he's played amazing. I mean, I agreed with Ryan coming into the season that he was a very good corner, but I didn't have him as cornerback 1. I mean, he's playing like he could be the first cornerback taken in the NFL draft. He's played amazing. On the opposite side is another guy that I don't want to try to pronounce his name, Israel Mukwamu. See,
You're close.
I'm terrible with names, man. My wife will even attest to that. She'll be, meet this guy, but I don't even remember what his name is. I have no idea. I'm terrible with names. But he's another player I'm going to be watching, number 24 for South Carolina. Outside of that, though, going to the Rebels. I kind of like their center, Ben Brown, number 55. I think he's going to be a day 3 prospect, but someone that I think could be, someone that he's going to make an NFL roster, I believe. On defense, though, has Sam Williams been playing? Because he popped on tape, but I know he's had some off the field issues.
I think he has been playing. Yeah, I haven't gotten eyes on him, but I believe he has been suiting up. So. Okay,
yeah, number 13. If number 13's out there for Ole Miss, I'll be watching him very closely too, because he's flashed some potential for me, and I like what I saw. But there's definitely some red flags when it comes to off the field issues with him.
Mm-hmm. Ryan, what about you? And try not to talk about J.C. Horn too much. We only have 20 minutes left. I know you need a whole 45 minutes to talk about him, but what do you got?
No, Joe, I just feel like it's coming full circle, man, because me and Zach had a scouting meeting before the season started, and I went to bat for J.C. Horn, and I know some people liked him, but I was just like, dude, I'm telling you, man, there's something there. There's really high, and I think that the best matchup, and you highlighted Matt Corral, who's a little volatile right now at quarterback. I think he's probably more a 2022 guy when it's all said and done. But J.C. Horn potentially matching up against Elijah Moore, who can go inside and outside. I want to see J.C. follow him all day. Mukwamu's a guy that I think is probably a safety at the next level, but he's definitely an NFL caliber defensive back. He's a guy that I want to take a look at. And, we talked about Elijah Moore, the wide receiver, dynamic slot guy. Also, they have Kenny Yeboah, who was a transfer from Temple, who I saw play a bunch while he was at Temple. Now he's playing that slot tight end role for that wide open Lane Kiffin offense. He's very talented. He's going to the Senior Bowl. So is Royce Newman, who's an offensive guard for them. He can play center a little bit in a pinch as well. So a couple of Senior Bowlers on that Ole Miss defense. I definitely want to take a look at Sam Williams because I know some people have very high regard for Sam Williams. And then if I want to throw out a guy that's probably a developmental guy that might not be drafted super high, there's this kid named Tariq Tisdale, who's a defensive end, interior D lineman as well for Ole Miss. He is 6'5", 290 pounds, and there is apparently a verified 4.6 flat at 290 pounds. Jeez. Now he has no idea what he's doing. He has zero idea, which is why he is not going to be drafted high. He's probably not going to be a day 2 guy even. I mean, even though if he goes to the combine and runs a 4.6 at 290 pounds, somebody might talk themselves into him. But I think he's a later round pick who has all the talent in the world. He's just a guy that needs to get with NFL coaching and really needs to start understanding the game. So the big matchup, though, I think, is Horn versus Moore, maybe Yeboah to a degree at some points as well, depending if they flex him out to an X receiver type of look. I think, though, if I had to pick this game, I'm going to go Ole Miss. And that hurts me to say to a degree because, J.C. Horn Hive, right? But I think that Ole Miss just has a little too much, and South Carolina's offense has really struggled this year. Shi Smith's a guy to keep an eye out, the wide receiver. Kevin Harris is a nice young running back, but the quarterback play has not been great. The offensive line play has not been great for South Carolina. So I think Ole Miss just has a little too much offensively, and they're going to outshoot South Carolina to a degree today.
And Zach, who did you pick again for this? I got a little caught up with giving Ryan trouble for being obsessed with J.C. Horn.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with South Carolina. Thank you for bringing up Shi Smith, Ryan, because I think that's someone that could be a game breaker today for South Carolina. I think he's a very good player. I think J.C. Horn. I think that defense could shut down Ole Miss. So I'll go opposite of Ryan here. Give me the Gamecocks.
Yeah, I think I'm going to disagree with Ryan here too. I think maybe that'll be my bid. I'm just going to pick opposite of whatever Ryan picks. I do like South Carolina. We talked about all these talented defensive players that they have, and we see a tendency for Corral to turn the ball over if he's put into some tough spots. So if you get a couple turnovers from that South Carolina defense from those talented corners, that thing could be going the other way for South Carolina. I know that they don't really have anything going for them offensively compared to Ole Miss, but still a very talented defensive group that can help them in this one. So we've got 2 more games that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to hit some game picks just for some of the games that we missed earlier on. This first ACC matchup, number 9 Miami, who has looked so good. D'Eriq King, who, talk about a polarizing prospect. Some people consider him to be draftable. Others are a little bit more grounded in realizing this guy's 5'7". No team is going to take a 5'7" quarterback. Conversely, Virginia Tech, no Caleb Farley. They lose to Liberty of all teams most recently. This is a weird one because I think Virginia Tech is one of those programs, even though they're 4-3, they're good enough to come out and shock a number 9 ranked Miami team. Zach, where do you sit on this one? Maybe some key guys in this, and do you think that maybe they could pull off the upset?
Well, first of all, I'll say no. I think Miami's going to smoke them. There's 2 guys for Virginia Tech on offense that I think Miami's going to smoke them. For Virginia Tech that I'm going to be watching is number 77, their left tackle, Christian Darsaw, who's playing as a first-round tackle. This kid has a ton of potential, and for a tackle class that I don't think has been playing up to snuff this year, personally. I think Darsaw's starting to set himself away from the pack a little bit. I think he could find his way into the first round. Trey Turner, the wide receiver, I think has played fine. I don't think he's anything like great, but I think he could find himself into that early day 3, maybe even late day 2 topic because he's a solid player, but he's not like we talked about Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's not that level of talent, but I think Trey Turner is a very good player. But talking about Miami, I will say, first of all, I do wish that Gregory Rousseau stayed and played this year. Just because I do have a lot of question marks, and Jalen Phillips is playing good. Quincy Roche is playing good. Zach McLeod is a solid player. I think could go as like a day 3 prospect. Al Blades, their corner, he's a solid prospect as well. Who's their safety? He's slipping my mind right now.
Bubba Bolden.
Bubba Bolden. See, I don't know how I could forget that name. Yeah, another great name. This day has been filled with prospects with fantastic names, man. I love it. And then on offense, yeah, D'Eriq King he's a polarizing prospect, but man, he's small, he's tiny. Brevin Jordan as well. I mean, you can't forget about him. Because he had an injury this year too. He's going to be playing today, right? I don't want to be talking about another prospect that's not playing.
Is he playing? I don't know. I know Will Mallory's kind of showed up the last couple games because he's been out. I don't know if he's playing today or not.
Yeah, well, while we're talking, I'll do my research on it. But yeah, I think this Miami defense is going to be playing solid enough to shut down Virginia Tech, and I think that their offense is going to be playing well. So I'll take Miami here.
So Miami by the blowout from Zach. Ryan, are you seeing the same thing? Do you think this is going to be a smackdown by Miami?
So it all depends, and I'm going to preface this to start, okay? Virginia Tech, I think, has a talented roster. I really do. They have been one of the worst teams in regards to dealing with the COVID protocol this year. There's been games where they're down 20-plus players. Now, they have dudes. Like Zach said, I like Trey Turner. I think he's got incredible body control through contact. I think that he has a lot of skill set on the boundary that I think NFL teams are really going to value. Khalil Herbert, for me, man, is one of the best running backs in all of college football, and he had a great start to the year. Now, he didn't play last week. He's questionable today. I just saw that he is warming up with the team, so hopefully he's playing. Looks like Brevin Jordan is also questionable. Zach just put into the chat as well, so we'll see if those guys are playing. If Khalil Herbert plays today, and they are not – I'm just going to leave it at that. If Khalil Herbert plays today, Virginia Tech with the upset over Miami. Miami defensively, Jalen Phillips, Quincy Roche, two very solid defensive end prospects. The second level, Zach McLeod is bad. That whole defense on the second level is bad. Bubba Bolden is good. The corners stink. That defense is just not good. I think that Virginia Tech could have their way offensively against this Miami defense if they get it rolling today with Khalil Herbert. The big loss last week was not having that element with Khalil Herbert. If he plays today, Virginia Tech in the upset. Derek King is a very good player as far as being an NFL-level athlete. He is absolutely a draftable prospect just because of how athletic he is. Not a quarterback, but he's going to play on Sundays in some capacity, whether that's as a gadget player, as a slot receiver, running back, whatever he ends up being. He's definitely an NFL player. Today, though, Virginia Tech, the fighting Khalil Herberts take down University of Miami.
Gee, and you gave me a hard time for picking the this Arkansas upset, and you tried to set me up to sound
oh, that was crazy. That was crazy. I can't believe you did that, Joe.
You're coming over here picking Virginia Tech to beat Miami. That's
absolutely
ridiculous.
Let's do it.
Virginia Tech's one of the few FBS programs currently that I can say I've seen firsthand because I literally played against them last year. I don't see it with Virginia Tech. This Virginia Tech program is not the same level of competitive that they've been in the past. You lose to Liberty. I don't think you're that good. I know Liberty's a ranked team.
Liberty's ranked like top 15 right now.
I know that they're okay, but like how legitimate is that? They're a ranked team that beat a bad ACC team. How legitimate is that?
We don't want context on this show, Joe. We just want picks and move it along here.
Just numbers. So I'm going to go with
numbers.
I'm going to go with Miami in this one. I agree with Zach. I think that this game might start close. It's going to be one of those games because I believe it's in Blacksburg. Yeah, it's in Blacksburg. So this looks like one of those games that might start close and then turn into a complete mess in the second half once Miami gets rolling and gets acclimated to the 40-degree weather. So last game, and I know this is a game that Ryan and I are very psyched for, and we're going to be watching this thing from snap one to the final snap of the game. Boston College against Notre Dame, number 2 Notre Dame coming off of the incredible victory over number 1 Clemson in overtime. This is a game that we've seen happen before where Notre Dame has had a big win, pushed themselves up in the rankings, only to be upset by a average to decent Boston College team. Hell, we've even seen some bad Boston College teams upset Notre Dame. Thankfully, they're not wearing green in this one. We don't have to worry about the Tyrone Willingham issue that we saw in the early 2000s. But this game, has a lot going into it, not to mention some guys that are riding some major draft stock boosts. You see the talented offensive line that Boston College has, a ton of names on it. Defensively, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is a player that I don't think it's too outlandish to say that this guy's playing at a first-round level, and he has that unique skill set that makes him into becoming one of those guys because defenses in the NFL want usage players. Zach, do you think that Notre Dame is going to easily handle this one, or do you think that they're going to slide, or Boston College rather is going to make things difficult and possibly upset them?
Nah, I think Notre Dame's got this in hand. To be honest with you,
good.
They're a good team. Yeah, I didn't want to upset you guys too bad, but Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa, I get that right?
Yes.
Got it perfect.
Nailed it. I have a mock draft hopefully coming out here on Monday for the Dynasty Draft Room, and I think you know where I'm going with this. I think he sneaks into the first round for me.
Nice.
So he might, yeah. So he's gonna be there. So I like their offensive line at Notre Dame. Tommy Kramer's a solid player. Liam Eichenberg is also playing as a late first, early second round type of player. I like him this year. So I'll let you guys talk a little bit about Notre Dame, but I'll talk about Boston College's offensive line. It's got a lot of talent. I think Zion Johnson, their left tackle, number 77, is their best player on that offensive line. I think Alec Lidstrom is going to be a very solid prospect, a very good player in the NFL. Ben Petrula, I liked him. I don't think he's that great. I think he's going to be like a third-round prospect day 3 prospect when it comes to the NFL draft. And Tyler Vrabel, he's probably not coming out, but he's a redshirt sophomore, and I think he's a solid player too. So it's going to be a lot of Notre Dame's defense going up against this offensive line. If they can get pressure, which I think they will, because I think there's a lot of talent on that defense, Notre Dame's going to cause a ton of issues for Boston College, and Notre Dame should win pretty easily.
I could probably already guess where Ryan's going with this one. Ryan, do I need to do you even need to give us any background? Can you just get the inevitable over with?
Well, if you listen to the Locked On Irish podcast, you know that I'm a bigger believer in this team than Joe DeLeone is, to say the least.
Stop it.
Say the least. Picking like a close game at the end. Notre Dame rolls today. You said they were winning by a touchdown with like 2 minutes left, and they scored late touchdown to make it 14.
Yeah, I think that's realistic. I think it's an 11-point spread. I think that somewhere around there is realistic for this game. I think that Boston College, with everything coming into it's the red bandana game. It is a rivalry game playing against the number 2 team in the country. You have a great new head coach. Phil Jurkovec is coming for his revenge. He's coming for the throat of Notre Dame. I'm not saying they're going to beat them. I am no shape or form saying that Boston College is going to win this football game. It's going to be closer than we think.
You heard it. Joe DeLeone just picked the Boston College to beat Notre Dame too.
Right.
He took the upset. Can we stop with the red bandana stuff? Did you see these uniforms today, by the way? The red bandana uniforms. They're ugly, dude. They're so ugly. They're hideous.
I bet you like the 76ers jerseys, which I know you did.
I did like the 76ers jerseys. I'm just kidding. I did not like the 76ers jerseys. They're awful. I wanted the 01. I wanted the 01 Iverson jerseys back. That's all I wanted. The red bandana jerseys, though, are ugly. We're living in the past. We're not living.
I just looked at them. They're so sweet.
They're fantastic. Ryan's a hater. Ryan hates anything nice.
Those are fire.
I can't believe you really just said that the new Sixers City
Edition
jerseys.
I was kidding about that.
I'm just making sure.
We talked about this. I wanted the 01 Iverson jerseys back as the blacks for the Sixers. The new ones are horrible. The red bandana, the one. So come on, man. Stop living in the past. I'm looking to the future right now. The future says Notre Dame by 20. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah with another big game. Kyle Hamilton, the best safety in college football. Kyron Williams, the best running back eligible in the 2022 NFL draft. You heard it there first. This is going to be a rollover 20-point victory for Notre Dame today, 34-14.
And Ian Book, the best quarterback in this current draft class.
All right, don't do that to me. Don't do that to me.
I was waiting for that one to pop out there. I didn't know if it was going to come or not. Okay, so we just want to quickly. What were we going to say, Ryan?
I was going to say, you noticed that I didn't mention him at all when I previewed that game. So,
well, we're Ian Book fans, just not in a draft context. So we just want to go back and make sure we get some quick picks here. You don't need to provide any background. Zach, for this Wisconsin-Michigan game, who do you think is going to win?
I'm taking Wisconsin here.
Okay, that's probably the consensus. Ryan, what do you think?
I'm picking Michigan. I'm just kidding. Wisconsin.
I was about to, if there was a way to boot you, I was going to try and figure out how to do it. This dude's just trolling the show. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Wisconsin here to knock off a very bad Michigan team. Indiana, Michigan State. Zach, where do you sit on this one?
I'm taking Indiana, but I do think it's going to be a closer game than people think. This is going to be Michigan State's going to be fighting for their lives here, but they're going to keep it close.
Ryan, how about you?
Michigan State upset today. That's actually a real pick.
Ooh, yeah.
All right. I'm debating doing that too. I'm going to stick with Indiana, though. I think that Michigan State looked a little bit sloppy last week, but hell, I could see it. They already made Michigan look silly. We don't know for sure if this is a very, very good Indiana team or if they've just been beating up on some programs that are down on their luck. USC, Arizona. Zach, who do you have?
I'll take USC pretty easily here.
Ryan?
Keaton Slovis, baby.
Hopefully they don't have to win with an onside kick again, but I'm going to go with USC as well. Last one that I think this was the last one that we didn't pick, Colorado at Stanford. Zach?
This is a tough one. I'm going to take the upset with Colorado, though.
Ryan?
Davis Mills plays Stanford.
Okay. I'm going to go with Stanford. I think that's a home game for Stanford. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. So we wanted to wrap up today's discussion. We had a swarm of Senior Bowl invites and accepted invitations, some interesting names, some guys that maybe were a bit unexpected, some players that were like, oh yes, we finally get to see them in this competitive environment because their seasons might be done or they might not have been available to play in some of these games. Maybe they opted out. But this list that we have right now is already starting to look very, very deep. For the last 5 minutes, I want to talk about maybe some surprises and some guys that you're excited to see in this game. Zach, who is somebody that you were a little bit surprised that they received an invite?
Surprised? I don't know if I was surprised really by any, but I will tell you there are a few guys that I'm excited to watch in the game.
Mm-hmm.
One's going to be Charles Snowden, the Virginia linebacker. Could not think of where he went to school for a second. My bad. and then Kerry Vincent. I know people like Kerry Vincent, the safety. He's a nickelback. He's not a safety. I know some people liked him. For me, I was a little bit lower on him. So this is going to be a game where I heard some people rumbling about him being a late day 2 prospect, early day 3. For me, he's more of a later day 3 prospect. So I'm going to be watching him pretty closely in this game. And then I just saw that Deontay Brown, the guard for Alabama, just got an invite a few hours ago here. So he's going to be a fun one to see him go up in one-on-one drills.
Yeah, that's a big dude, Deontay Brown. He's an absolute unit. Ryan, I know there were a couple guys, or there was at least one or two guys that you were a little shocked about just based on what you were saying to Alex and I on Twitter. Is there anybody that you were just a little bit surprised that maybe wouldn't typically in this cycle be a Senior Bowl invite?
Yeah, I think the one guy that took me a little off, just because took me a little by surprise, I should say, is Cade Johnson from South Dakota State. I think that he's a really nice player. He's an interesting player. I know that he was toying with the conversation of, hey, do I find a transfer option? Do I come back for the 2021 college football season and enter 2022? So there was a lot of conversation. All of a sudden, he gets a Senior Bowl invite. So it was just more a surprise, as in I wasn't sure where people valued him to a degree, and then he just randomly gets the Senior Bowl invite. So I guess he's a guy that Jim Nagy and his staff really liked. So now obviously that has swayed his decision to going back, or I should say not to go back to college, which is an interesting conversation. I think that so far we've seen some nice pieces to the Senior Bowl list, but I would just say that Cade Johnson and a couple of the FCS guys, well, we're a little surprised because we already have 7 FCS guys, which I know, Joe, being a guy that covers it, that you're very happy about.
Oh, I was so juiced up. Every time I saw an FCS guy, I was excited to tweet it out and give some recognition to some of these really talented players. And I know some of them might have been a little bit surprising. You talked about Cade Johnson. I think that most expected him to be a Shrine Game invite. I honestly thought that the dude was going to transfer. And I honestly still think that he might have been better off transferring, getting an opportunity to play for a good program and a good conference. And I think his talent level as a college football player was good enough for him to do that, to play for a good program. And then he could have shined if he went to a team that has a good quarterback or a decent level quarterback. But instead he makes that decision, take the money that's being handed to him. If you get a Senior Bowl invite, that's the largest level of exposure. I don't think anyone should talk you out of taking a Senior Bowl invite when you have that opportunity to. It's rare. You're really not going to get that level of an invite. And then on top of it, taking advantage of what's going on right now to get an invite that you maybe wouldn't have gotten, you just have to go with it. Because hypothetically, you go transfer somewhere, you don't even get into the starting lineup. That's going to complicate things, and then you potentially lose out on that opportunity to go play somewhere. So, is there anybody?
I will say that, just for the Senior Bowl, that in that respect, obviously getting an invite to the Senior Bowl is a big deal on an every year basis. But now this year, where the East-West is canceled, the NFLPA Bowl is going to a virtual format, not having a football game. Like, it's even bigger for these small school kids, because we just saw what happened last year in the 2020 NFL draft cycle. That when the quarantine hit and people weren't able to have their pro day numbers, they weren't able to show themselves. For being an FCS prospect and Cade Johnson, that's not going to play a season of college football, to have that opportunity to be in front of scouts in a capacity where, hey, maybe in a typical year, this kid might actually be an East-West kid or an NFLPA guy. But now that he has that Senior Bowl invite, the fact that there was going to be less opportunity again this offseason with what's going on with the East-West and the NFLPA Bowl to a degree, it's a big deal for a guy like Cade Johnson to get that invite.
And the one thing that's super messy, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think before we wrap up. And you talked about how things are complicated with this FCS season. They're playing in the spring. So if you're a prospect that gets this interest, that somebody reaches out to you and the Senior Bowl reaches out to you, or even the NFLPA Bowl reaches out to you and says, hey, we want you to come perform, you kind of have to take that invite, because you end up being ruled ineligible if you choose to go play in it. But at the other option that you have is, do you play half the season and then declare? Do you bank on playing in this weird season after sitting all this time? Like, there's just so many awkward variables that come into play. I think Trey Lance made the right decision. He basically would have had to stay and play the full year and then declare the following year. You risk losing out on some serious draft hype if you choose to do that.
Yeah, and I feel like this was the only option for guys that were going to enter the 2021 NFL draft. There was never going to be a spring option for those guys with the timing of everything. Like you said, those guys that chose to play in the spring are not going to be eligible for the 2021 NFL draft. So those guys, I feel like it involved a lot of foresight and a lot of moving parts, which is tough to make a decision when you're not 100% sure what's happening in this variable. And like you said, a lot of different variables that they have to really, go through. And I think that my main advice for players, and I could say this just from guys that have reached out to me, get a good support system around you. Talk to the right people when decisions like this have to be made, because there was a lot of variables that were not easy for a 22-year-old kid to really fully understand. Get the right people around you so that you can make a sound decision and what the best step forward is for you.
Zach, do you have anything you want to throw in on that, or?
No, Ryan, that was very well said. I mean, you better be getting some really good advice and the right advice, because if you're not, this could be a huge hindrance on your NFL career, And you guys said it pretty well too. This is bigger. This Senior Bowl is way bigger than it was any other year for these young kids. These kids that didn't really have a season, like Cade Johnson. Like it's a big deal to have this invite and to declare and go do that. So as long as you're getting the right people around you and the right advice and good advice that makes sense, it's the right thing to do, and I like what they're doing here.
All right, I think that's a good point to wrap us up here. Ryan, do you mind taking the reins here to wrap us up?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we're here on the Tailgate Show previewing this Saturday slate of games for NFL Draft Bible. Want to thank Mr. Zack Patro. Is that how you say it, Zach? I always wanted to ask you how you say your last name.
Yeah, Patra. I don't ding anyone for saying it wrong, because it's Patra, Patera, Patro, Petru. Like no one gets it right. And I'm just like, you know what? Screw it. I say it however you want.
Okay. Well, you can follow him at NFL_Zach, the founder of the Dynasty Draft Room. Always great content getting put out over there. Mr. Joe DeLeone here, who is, I talk to him every single day, a lot during the day. I'm sure that he's tired of it at this point. Too much at this point. I am Ryan Roberts at Rising Draft. We appreciate you all for following along with us today. If you have not checked out, we have a seminar next week with Brian Baldinger Wednesday nights. We also have Friday Night Scouts School every Friday, 9 o'clock Eastern time. You can find all that information at NFLDraftBible.com. We also have the virtual draft guide out right now We actually have a nice little promo deal on there as well. So if you want to check out that everything that we do at NFL Draft Bible, I would definitely recommend to take a look at NFLDraftBible.com. I appreciate everybody for taking some time with us today to check out these slated games, everything NFL Draft Bible related, anything college football and NFL draft related in general. We hope everyone has a great week, and we will be back again Saturday morning next week, 10 o'clock Eastern time, to preview some more games. Appreciate you all. Have a great day and a great week.